Now, let's return to Focus on the State Capitol on Talk 1300 and 98.7.
And welcome back to Focus on the State Capitol. Before we have our guest, Randy Credico, join us in a second. I think he'll find this interesting, too. I wanted to read a tweet that was sent out a few hours ago by Philippe Reines. And people who know about Hillary Clinton's world know Philippe Reines was a key aide for many, many years to Hillary Clinton. And this is in the context of Kirsten Gillibrand discovering the sexual proclivities of Bill Clinton and saying now 20 years later Clinton should have resigned when the information and allegations about him came out during his term in office. Philippe Reines wrote this on Twitter as a reply to Gillibrand, and a comment to Gillibrand because he sent a copy of it to her. If she said this in 1998 or at any moment over the last 20 years, okay. But this was no profile in courage. It was either inartfully worded, her statement, or it's saying, I will stand up to people for what I believe in, but only when they no longer have any utility to my political ambitions. So he left open the possibility that maybe she was misquoted, but by now that would be out if she was claiming she was misquoted. But that's a real shot from Clinton world, as it might be described in the New York Times, at Kirsten Gillibrand. But those of us who know Kirsten Gillibrand and know her history certainly would, I think, easily enough say, what does she care? She's looking to her future, not to Clinton's past. Let's go to the phone right now where the one and only Randy Credico, just back from England, where I suspect he was in contact with or may even have met with Julian Assange and was on some other political-related missions, is joining us right now. Good morning, Randy. Good to have you with us.
Fred, it's always a pleasure to be on the show, and thank you for having me on.
Great to have you. What a time around, whether it's what's going on with the Republican vote on tax reform or Al Franken. Those are two gigantic events going on in Washington. But before I ask you about those, before I ask you about your trip to Britain or England, I want to ask you about this. You got me in trouble with some guy named Tony Bates at WBAI in New York City. He's after me, claiming that I ought to put him on the radio to respond to you. Who is Tony Bates, and what is he complaining about?
Tony Bates is the interim, what you call...
Programming director?
Not the program director. No, to be a program director at WBAI takes the vote from the local station board, and nobody on the local station board wants him to be the program director. He was kind of foisted in on us by the general manager, who's a friend of his, who was appointed too on an interim basis. So he's an interim. He was there to give out premiums to whenever we have a fundraising drive, which is like 90% of the time these days, it seems like, and we're way behind in the premiums getting them out because of him. He's very slow. And he doesn't like me. He took a long time to finally get rid of me, but he doesn't have much favor at the station from the producers, and I suspect that he'll be gone. Whether I go back or not is another question. I don't know. I'm on your station right now. I can tell you this, Fred, is that you have a big listenership. When that group, Anonymous Scandinavia, puts it out that I'm on, trust me, your listenership goes way up. There's a lot of people that went from WBAI. They went from WBAI on Tuesday to listening to me on Friday, which a lot of them did anyway before, including Julian Assange. He would be listening right now, and who I spent a couple of days seeing in London the other day, yesterday, in fact, and the day before. But I'll get to that in a minute. But your listenership has gone way up because everyone that listens no longer anymore. On Tuesday at 5 o'clock, they've gone over here. And this is Bates, who did what he's doing is, did you ever see The Producers? He's trying to get rid of shows and thinking that success will work, bringing in a crazy, stupid show would expand the base. But he's losing the base. He's doing just the opposite of what the producers did.
Randy, I'm a big fan of yours, and I have no doubt that you're giving an honest and accurate assessment of what's going on there. But what should I do with Tony Bates' request? He wants to come on the show to rebut you. Should I let him on?
Listen, it's free speech, whatever you want to do. Just, let him go on. That's fine, but not while I'm on. I really don't want to hear his voice anymore,
I'll give him a chance to respond.
Yeah, let him go on. Let him go on. And what he has done is libeled me. What happened is that he really angered a fellow by the name of John Pilger, who's won 150 awards. He's done 75 documentaries, internationally renowned. I think I sent you the letter that John Pilger sent to him and to the general manager. You've got to see that. You cannot anger a guy like John Pilger. He is an icon. He is a legend. He's 80 years old, and he's still doing great work. But this guy is incredibly upset with the disinformation that Mr. Bates has put out there. I'll send you all of this stuff. He barred my dog from coming in. He angered Pamela Anderson, even though I have a certificate from a therapist to bring the dog in. So got a lot of people not listening or doing the show. But I don't want to talk about him.
All right, Randy, let's move on from there. Yeah. And I want to ask you a question that I think the CIA would like an answer to. What the heck were you doing in England? And were you in contact with Julian Assange at all?
Yes. Yes. Listen, Fred, I'll tell you something. I just got back, and the first thing I saw was a letter from a congressional committee, so I haven't opened it. I'm sending that straight to the lawyer. I'm not going to get into it. I don't want to talk about it right now. You'll be the first to know. It's sealed, and I'm sending it over to a lawyer today. What was I doing to see? I saw Mr. Assange. I saw him on Monday. Was it Monday? Because, I was going to Catalan, and, he's like now in the middle of this whole Catalan thing because he's been reporting from the embassy stuff that you don't get in the Washington Post or
this has
you
to
don't
do
get
with
in the New York
Catalonia,
Times.
Spain, seeking to secede and become an independent nation.
Well, it was a vote. It was a vote there, okay?
It was an illegal referendum in the view of the Spanish government.
Very corrupt. This guy, Rajoy, who's the Spanish government, he's involved big time in the Panama Papers and the Paradise Papers. This guy Rajoy, and what this is right now is a diversion from that. He really doesn't care. That's what I've extrapolated, and others, is that he needed a crisis like many politicians to get into a war. He needed this kind of a soft war situation where he sends in the troops into Catalan. In the meantime, he's knee-deep in the corruption scandal rocking the PP party in Catalan. I mean, not Catalan, but in Spain, in the seat of Spain. So you really have all these elements of Franco that still control the institutions of Spain, and this guy is so knee-deep in the corruption scandal right now is that this was a convenient diversion for him.
So what were you doing with Julian Assange? Were you in the Ecuadorian embassy, or were you talking with him on Facebook or something like that?
No, I was in the embassy. Well, of course, I can't deny it because they got cameras trained in on the place.
Sure.
They had photos of two guys from Catalan coming into the station as if it were paparazzi, when in fact it was the government taking pictures of people entering the embassy on over the last couple weeks. Two people came in there from Catalan, supposedly, and they used that in the newspaper in El Pais, charging him with colluding or whatever with these two Catalan guys when two people came in. And so what the pictures show is that they were not from paparazzi because they're from the same angles. You got to take a look at it. And so, of course, the place is surrounded with government agents, MI6, whoever. And I was in there yesterday. Before I went to the airport, I spent 2 hours. He got this great EmbassyCat. I brought some food from Harrods. Very expensive, Fred. Don't go to Harrods to shop. And I spent 4 hours with him on Monday night. 4 hours on Monday night, yesterday in the daytime, and then Monday 4 hours on Monday night. That's what I did. Yes.
Mainly speaking about the Spain situation or Catalonia?
No. Just about a lot of stuff. Just, stuff in general, about what's going on in the U.S. What about I developed a very good friendship with a great intellectual, very articulate.
He's a very interesting historical figure.
He understands U.S. history better than almost as well as you do. You're very good, Fred. You could be a history professor. It'd be nice if you did that a couple of days a week. But he historically he knows the U.S. very well. Even going back to antebellum South, he can talk about that and the comparison between publishers back then, like people like Garrison or Elijah Lovejoy, these great people that were under attack, people that the government or the slave power didn't like. Were people that don't like what he puts out there, but he puts out there stuff that is irrefutable.
Yeah. What does he make of President Trump and the whole Russia situation? I mean, you've talked about it in the past. He poo-poos it, and of course he's denied that Russia was the source of information that he's released, although he certainly could have gotten it from people who got it from Russia. But what's your sense of talking to him the last few days of what his view now is of government in Washington, President Trump, and the Congress?
Well, I think that it's a complete witch hunt, and I think that he believes that, too. A witch hunt that this is the Democrats basically, they want to go after Trump, and they're using this whole Russia thing, which is on fumes. I suppose that's what this letter is all about, is the fumes that are still out there trying to keep this thing.
Hey, open it up. Open the letter up, Randy, and read it to us.
No, I'm not going to, Fred. I'm just going to take it to a lawyer before I do anything, and then you'll be the first to know.
All right.
All right? I'll talk to you after I get off the phone about it. But let me just get back to this Russia stuff. The Russia stuff is, I'm not a Trump supporter, as you know, and I certainly was not a Clinton supporter. I was a Jill Stein supporter, and there are publishers out there. Every newspaper seems to have a favorite that's running. But Albany Times Union like Clinton, so the Washington Post like Clinton. They all like Clinton. They all want Trump to go. I'm not a Trump fan. And I think that this is all some kind of way to extricate him from office use and keeping this Russia thing alive. The whole thing is a joke. I don't think that they had anything to do with the collusion. I'm convinced. I know it was a leak, not a hack by the Russians. Now, the Russians may have influenced, just like we're influencing elections right now, I believe, in Romania or Hungary, one of these two countries. We're actively involved, spent $700,000, the U.S. government, the State Department, trying to influence their elections. So that's a lot more than $100,000 that was spent on Facebook.
I understand that, Randy. Did Assange have any insights that you hadn't heard before that you could share with listeners that you found provocative?
I really have to think about that because we were talking. Can I tell you, we were talking about, let's say, China and Russia culture, and we're talking about all sorts of things, food. Listen, he's just a great guy to talk to. Just like I've had hours conversations with you. I mean, can you imagine? He's been inside this place for 6 years now. He's in incredible health, very inventive, stays productive, and no matter what, he angers people on the left and right. All right. Once the left likes him, and then the left doesn't like him. That's the job of a publisher doing his job by not caring what the response is going to be by either side of an issue.
That's what journalists should do as well.
Right. That's what this it really does define quality journalism. And Fred, I mean, look, I know you're partisan on one side, but you've said bad things about Republicans. You've said bad things about Democrats.
Throughout my reporting history, I was described, even in print, as an equal opportunity sort of SOB. If I had information on a Republican or a Democrat, I'd run it if I thought it was a good story and the public should know about it. I have my own views, but I kept them out of the reporting. Let me ask you this, Randy. Al Franken, did you ever work with him? And did you see that picture of him? That picture is unbelievable in terms of its impact. And took attention away from the, Roy Moore situation. It's blown up on the Clintons now with all this revisiting of Bill Clinton's actions. It's going to reverberate for weeks to come. What did you know about Al Franken? Did you ever work with him?
Yes, at Caroline's Comedy Club, I worked side by side. He used to be with Air America. He was the most disliked person at Air America. And at Saturday Night Live, the director of my film, 60 Spins Around the Sun, Laura Keitlinger, remember her?
Sure.
Okay, well, Laura Keitlinger told me that, she worked at the same time he was there. He was a writer, and I guess he was a guest and all of that. That when he left the station, when he left Saturday Night Live to do whatever, there was a huge party, not with him there, amongst all of the writers. They were just happy that he was gone. Nobody wanted him there. There was just a huge going away party without inviting him. It was kind of a celebratory party that Franken wasn't there. He's an odd dude, Fred. He's so self-involved and self-concerned and really awkward in public. And I think that this whole affair with this woman, which I still only have an iota of information on it because I got jet lag. I got in late last night and was talking with the pilot, not the pilot, but with the entire crew. They were all fascinated with Assange. The entire crew. They had me in the back, drinking that great American airline coffee.
Were you wearing a button saying, I just visited Julian Assange? I mean, you must have told them about it.
Yeah, I just said it in passing to one person. What were you doing there? I said, went there, and what do you do? I'm a radio host, or I'm taking a leave of absence from WBAI is what I put in.
Come on, you must have done a few impressions too, right?
They loved it. They loved the impressions. They loved it. I did it, and then they all got. I'm doing some self promotion for my dwindling career here. So I did a whole bunch of impressions. They're all about my age, because on those international flights you do get veterans on. To the short flights to Miami, you don't. But the ones from New York to Buenos Aires and to London, you get veteran who would be closer to my age and would know Hubert H. Humphrey, and they would know all
Randy,
the characters.
Just in terms of giving you some additional context, because you're newly back, just think of the impact on the Democrats who were gloating and in a feeding frenzy against Roy Moore, the candidate down in Alabama, of this Al Franken photo and revelations. You may have heard Chuck Schumer yesterday had a scheduled press conference and then abruptly canceled it and disappeared. I mean, the Democrats have been reeling over this. You've got Kirsten Gillibrand saying now, 20 years later, Bill Clinton should have resigned as president when the revelations about him came out, and the Clinton people are attacking Gillibrand now, as are others, for hypocrisy. Just a year ago, she was saying how great Bill Clinton was.
Well, Bill,
I mean, it really is it has created a huge swirl.
Well, Bill Clinton, let me tell you this, Fred.
Yeah.
I never touched that woman, Kirsten. I don't know why. I never had anything to do with that woman.
No.
And I think it's the reason why. I knew she was a rat. I knew she was going to talk about me later on. That's why I never had any contact with that woman. But let me just say this, Fred. It's bad for the Democrats. Obviously, it's thrown a big monkey wrench into the whole situation. I mean, there's something palpable there. Obviously, this picture of him, why he would take the picture, it was disgusting that he would pose for something like that. But he's an awkward dude, you know what I mean? That's the type of guy that would ever, I just can't imagine him even like trying to romance a woman. I just really can't. So I got to look at it more. I'm certainly not defending him.
Have you heard, the Times did a story on this today, and others did it as well. We have 3 United States Congress members from New York, they're Republicans, 3 Congress members, saying that Andrew Cuomo is an outright liar. Yesterday he claimed he had spoken to them. 2 of them said they never heard from him, they didn't speak to him, and then he claimed that they confided in him that the only reason they voted for the Republican tax plan is because their leadership made them do it, as if Republican congressmen would admit that, assuming it is even true, to a Democratic governor who's sworn to oust them. I mean, the governor is getting roasted over this, and I would think justifiably so. I can't recall ever a time when members of Congress accused the governor from their home state of being a liar, but that's what's going on right now.
Well, I would say that I have no problem calling him a liar. I don't know about these allegations, but I would say definitely lied about a lot of things. He lied to me about clemencies way back there. I can tell you I'm working on a couple of clemencies right now, and he never did. He was totally lying, all right? So a lot of stuff, this guy is a natural-born liar. He's a hack politician, and I'm hoping that, I saw Cynthia Nixon, who is playing, it seems like she may be in this race, and hopefully, I saw her at this event last night I read about with her and Bill Samuels, and nice to see that they're both on the same page when it comes to this educational analysis. So I
critical last night of the governor. Is that right? In terms of funding formulas.
Right, definitely. So Nixon and Samuels, hopefully this is harbingers of them both jumping into the race, Fred, because they need to air this stuff out. There's plenty of stuff out there on Cuomo that will be whoever. I'm happy to lend my my knowledge of and running against him and all of my material and do opposition research against Cuomo, and I dedicate now until the primary day to do that to anybody that is in that race.
Well, I don't know if you saw the governor's statement about 75,000 people or more have signed a petition saying the Tappan Zee Bridge should remain the Tappan Zee Bridge, and he's blaming that on conservative money, the Mercer family, and then he says there's too much hate. It's going to destroy us. Now, this is Andrew Cuomo, who just called these members of Congress traitors, said they were Benedict Arnolds, who claims that extremists are out to get him, saying there's too much hate out there. when just a few years ago he was declaring conservatives not even to have a place in New York State. What do you make of the governor acting like he's hurt over 75,000 people, saying a bridge shouldn't have been named by the governor for his father?
I totally agree with that. I can't wait to sign the petition myself. I've been saying that. So why don't he say the same thing? Call a liberal left person like me a traitor. Why don't he go out there and say that? He will if he has a chance, in my view. You know, well, he should come out there and say something about me. Because there's not just me, but many others who agree with that. Don't want to see this bridge. You know, Mario Cuomo is, I call it the bridge to 37 prisons that he built. 37 prisons when this guy Andrew Cuomo was doing stuff after that whole thing with Koch, you know, vote for Cuomo, not the homo. That was him. He denied that, and then he definitely had something to do with these prisons being built because he was the chief of staff. There's a lot of stuff out there in Cuomo that hasn't even got out. I've asked the writers up there in Albany to do some research on Cuomo and this guy Goldfarb. Okay, look into.
And you're about out of time, regrettably. This has gone very, very fast. I'm not sure I want to ask you to bring some of your friends like Al Sharpton to say goodbye to the audience. But if you have some,
just say this: Richard Nixon will say, "Andrew, just continue to lie." Andrew, that's a good thing, all right? You can lie and deny. That's what I did, but whatever you do, just keep a little bit of vodka. Don't do what I did, which is to drink a lot of brandy. I know you'd like to drink vodka, but don't drink a lot of it because you'll just go insane. And everybody is an enemy, Andrew. Remember that. Everybody.
Mr. President, thank you so much for joining us. Randy Credico, great to have you with us. Listen, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. If I don't speak to you before then, we'll stay in touch. Appreciate it. This is Fred Dicker focusing on the state capitol. We've got to take a break per Gideon's instructions, and we'll be right back.